Hello, I'm Barry James. On my way back from the Bordeaux FinTech conference of 2015, the first one in France, for my FinTech Now column. And I'm sitting in Bordeaux Airport with Nicolas Steiner of FinTech Circle, who is going to tell us a little bit about FinTech Circle. But first, Nicolas, would you tell us a bit about your background and how this got you here and working in FinTech?
Okay, hello, I'm Nicolas Steiner. I'm a founding member of FinTech Circle, and basically, I naturally came into FinTech because for the past, let's say, 20 years, I worked in a tech entrepreneurship, and I always have been a fan of the ecosystem, digital ecosystem from the beginning. And I spent many years working for the digital enabling features such as identity authentication, payment services, data management, and all these digital enabling features are quite transversal across industry segments. So basically, FinTech is becoming quite prominent. So I moved naturally into FinTech. The reason I became a founding member of FinTech Circle is actually FinTech Circle launched the project at Level 39, at the club launch of Level 39, where I'm actually one of the founding members as well. So it was more about connection I had in the past, which made me connected to this.
Okay, so tell us a bit about FinTech Circle and what led up to it. I gather there was a publication, a book that kind of helped get things going.
Yeah, basically, Suzanne, when she launched this, she's the CEO. Yes, absolutely. She also launched a couple of weeks later the first crowd book about FinTech, because she did a bit of research before launching the brand, and she realized that no books has been ever written about FinTech. So she had this project to really launch a crowd book, which became quite, due to the brand, was at the right time, and we had quite a good communication. We had actually people from all around the world willing actually to write some page of these books, and basically it naturally gave us a community, a global community about FinTech, of people who have things to say, because everyone can rate, and all the best rated articles are going to be published. So we have access to the large community of people who have really interesting point of view to say about what are the impact of FinTech in the current industry, how is the innovation struggling within the incumbent, and all these things. Okay.
And when we were chatting early, you described, I think there were three key elements to the way that innovation more generally and FinTech Circle in particular function. Would you tell us a bit about that?
Well, basically, FinTech Circle at the origin is a business angel network. As I explained, there is a book, but there is also a branch called FinTech Circle Innovate, and basically dealing with innovation for corporation and doing sourcing. So basically, innovation is normally made of three pillars, which is innovation itself, often coming from third-party, agile third-party, looking for funding, so access to funds, which is the third pillar, which is also available with the angel network, and access to a distribution channel in order for the innovation to be successful and to be distributed. Often it's become to connecting to the right corporation, doing a partnership with an innovation in order to add this to the current assets.
Okay. So, would you tell us a little bit about your role and what are the highlights so far in terms of your career with FinTech Circle?
Well, when I met actually Suzanne and also Nicolas, who is the CEO of FinTech Circle Innovate, I mentioned to them that they will have a lot of people coming from finance, but the disruption is coming from tech. And actually, I used to work also in telecom, the digital enabler, as I mentioned earlier, and I just told them, well, be careful. Don't only focus on financial services, focus on any segment of industry who are willing to leverage their relationship with their users, because fintech is going to be all about consolidating this, basically. If you talk about retail banking, of course, then fintech is broader than this. It can go to wealth management and all these things. But basically, that's how actually I became. I took the position of a director of digital convergence because I'm really experienced in the digital industry, and I could see actually all this authentication, identity, lifecycle management, data management coming huge in a finance industry as well, which is now fintech.
Okay. So I think it was Eileen Burbidge, the envoy for fintech, who said fintech's just a new word for something that we've been doing for some time, and you've described some of the routes. Where do you think it's going? Where do you think we might be in 3 and 5 years' time?
Well, I don't really believe. I think it's going to disrupt the bank, but not completely. It's not going to destroy the banks. The banks are very strong. And we're actually, all these innovations. They need the bank to be distributed. I think it's more about having the right level of partnership with distributors in order to develop this kind of B2B2C distribution model of new digital services. Then, where I see the biggest problem coming is more about the digital, let's say, these digital additional services will actually lead to transformation internally, in the big incumbents. And in 5 years' time, I believe this is where actually, we need to make sure that actually things are organized for this, and actually the mentality of people are really changing in order to make sure that everyone is finding his right place.
So obviously this is a change. It's a shake-up in thinking and so on. What do you see that means for people everywhere, for consumers, for the world? How do you see the effects of that?
Well, I think it will bring, from a consumer point of view, it will bring more convenience, because currently the consumers they are happy to change some habits as long as it brings convenience. And I think as actually yesterday we mentioned, some people mentioned during the event, it's all about technology is a vehicle for innovation. It's not really the innovation itself. So basically, it will bring globally more convenience, better access to financial services in a more easy way, more transparency, in the way financial services is provided, and because let's face it, for now transparency is not really happening in the banking industry.
So you see more transparency happening, and that's interesting. There's been in the last year, according to all the measures, a massive increase in the amount of investment, particularly VC investment, that's been pouring into fintech. Have you seen that happening? What does that look like from your point of view in FinTech Circle and your sort of vantage points in London and elsewhere?
Well, FinTech Circle has been actually quite successful in attracting a lot of startups. So we have the choice to really select good startups to present this couple of, let's say, 8 to 10 times a year to the audience of investor. And basically, yes, we can see more and more people who are willing to invest directly, personally into this company, and VC as well. But, FinTech Circle, we are actually focusing on seeding investments, and we have sometimes we used to have some company who were looking for Series A funding, where actually we are obviously partnering with funds for this. We are also opening one of the first funds dedicated to this British scheme of SES, in order to invest smartly. So it is really booming. People, money is flowing globally. In London, money is flowing. The percentage is plus 40% comparing to a few years ago, and we are living. I think we're living a bubble, but basically the trend is there.
Okay. So, if you could change one thing about the situation more generally, fintech in particular, what would it be?
Well, I think corporation globally, banks, and I can talk about also big corporations such as telecom industry, where I come from. They all know people are clever internally. They all know what needs to be done. They just don't know how to move. And if I could change something, it's finding a way to for people to be less scared of the change happening, because change is happening. And basically, some company can afford for now to hold for the change, but the more they hold, the bigger the shock is going to be.
Okay, and finally, just for, in more general terms, is there anything from your point of view at FinTech Circle that you'd like to say either to the innovation community or to any of the other communities that you work with? What's the message today?
Well, yeah, the message is, I think you never had a better time to innovate, because the barrier of entry is very low to innovate. The digital era brings anyone who has a little bit of knowledge, they can bring some value propositions, they can test it. Of course, there's a lot of failure because so many people are doing it. However, the low barrier of entry allow anyone who has any idea to improve to try to do something by itself. And that would be actually something I would really advise to push the entrepreneurship.
That's great. So there's huge opportunity. So Nicolas Steiner, FinTech Circle, thank you.
You're welcome.